Interconnect Clearinghouse is government's perfect solution to sandbox fraud, which has caused major revenue loss to the country. But many stakeholders are worried about privacy and security issues. So we ask the question, are fears of clearinghouse spying on private communication justified? Let's see.
Ghanaians should rise up and resist, the attempts to have this thing set up. Telephone and communication is part of our daily lives. If it was something that, we can do without, I would say, well, I don't know who are the folks managing the Interconnect Clearinghouse. I don't know if I say something that is not good for government, they are going to put it out there. I don't know the communication between myself and my wife, which is private, they are going to put it out there so that the next time I say something bitter to government, they will just release it.
We shall hear from telecommunication experts, the National Communications Authority, which we've been battling with to get, as well as pressure groups. So how do you personally feel about privacy issues raised about Clearinghouse?
I'll feel very bad and also shy, maybe if the conversation is very bad.
My name is Osei Ibrahim, and this is today's big story. TBS is proudly supported by Lifeline Properties, but it is estimated that Ghana lost over $33 million to sandbox fraud within 7 months. So Interconnect Clearinghouse is government's proposed solution to ensuring that government is not shortchanged. Now, the Media Foundation for West Africa is raising red flags on privacy. Telcos also have their own concerns. Well, MTN has issued a position on ICH. Let's quickly look at their concerns and let's pick something from the statement issued. And if I go by what I have here, they say, based on the details provided by the National Communications Authority in its document, the Interconnect Clearinghouse will create a monopoly with a single point of interconnectivity failure that will increase the potential for network disruption. Now, the statement goes on and on and on. Let's now listen to the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, and let's hear what he is saying about this ICH.
As it is, Ghanaians should rise up and resist, the attempts to have this thing set up. If you go to other countries, yes, interconnect clearinghouses exist, but they are not a monopoly, and then there are clear guidelines. People, data users, the operators know what the rules are and so on. As we speak, if we had the Connect Clearinghouse in existence and there happened to be a tip that is out there, on a communication that I had with you over the phone privately, discussing our private matters, the question would be, if it is network operator A that we are using, are we going to the network operator or we are going to the Interconnect Clearinghouse? Because if you go to the network operator, they can tell you, well, as you know, before the call got to my system, it would have gone through the clearinghouse. So I haven't tampered with your records or your data. Perhaps it is the Interconnect Clearinghouse. Telephone and communication is part of our daily lives. If it was something that, we can do without, I would say, well, I don't know who are the folks managing the Interconnect Clearinghouse. I don't know if I say something that is not good for government, they are going to put it out there. I don't know the communication between myself and my wife, which is private, they are going to put it out there so that the next time I say something bitter to government, they will just release it and say, look at what they talk about. The politicians, we all know, once in a while say a tape is here, tape is there. There's this tape, there's this tape. Elections are coming. So I think that I am surprised that the political parties and the other entities are quiet about this whole big thing that is happening in our country.
So I have here with me in the studio a technology expert and activist. His name is Maximus Ametogo. Thanks for joining me. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank
you. We want you to briefly take us through, what this clearinghouse is all about.
Okay. The clearinghouse is basically a system where all calls will be terminated through. So it's just like somebody sitting in between us. So when I said good morning, the person repeats the good morning to you. When you reply, how are you? And then the person repeats the same thing to me. Okay, so that's the whole system. It's going to connect all the telcos, including international gateway. Okay, all the international calls that will go through, come to Ghana will go through the clearinghouse. Now the issue is that the telcos interconnect already. The telcos already clear calls, so there's no need for an interconnect clearinghouse technically, because they pay international gateway licenses to do the same thing locally. So why do you want to sit in between the telcos so that you'll be handing over calls to them or from another person to another person using a central point?
But government is saying categorically, the NCAA is saying that we have problems with SIM fraud. And so this is the way we want to clear the system and clean it up. What's wrong with it?
In fact, NCAA knows technically that the clearinghouse will not solve SIM box fraud. Take it from me, it will not solve SIM box fraud.
How?
SIM boxing, people terminate calls via the internet to a local number right here in Ghana. So they even bypass the telecom system. Now when you have a clearinghouse, all the internet will not pass there. People will still terminate the call. It comes on a local number here, for example, maybe Telecom A, and then it hands over the call to a Telecom A member or the other telecom numbers. So it will still bypass the gateway. So it will not solve SIM box fraud.
A number of issues have come up. One, for instance, the media network for West Africa is raising the issue of security and privacy. The MTN is also raising issues of revenue and all of that. But for you, what this clearinghouse pie on private communication?
Yes, so if they are clearing calls, for example, if a call comes through, it has to terminate through their system. If you send an SMS, it has to terminate through their system. If you're doing data communication, it has to go through their system. Means that they have access to your communication pipeline and they can tap into it, or they can do whatever they want to do with your communication information. Now the problem here is that the consumer, the end user of a telecom service, has no contract with the clearinghouse party. You have contract with the telecommunication company that you use. So if there's a problem, you can't blame the Interconnect clearinghouse. You can only blame the telecom company, and they can also tell you the problem is from the clearinghouse. Now, if you don't trust the telcos as government claims, why are you trusting a third party who is also profit-making to do the same job they are already doing?
But let's look at the telcos. What shows that a conversation I had a while ago with my friend was not tapped in by anybody? Are we not experiencing that already?
They will not. You see, the telcos will have the information stored. They will not go looking for you amongst millions of subscribers for whatever reason. Now, when you have Interconnect clearinghouse, it gives government the power. It means that security agencies will not take a legal document to the telecom company requesting for your number or communication between you and other people they think you're using to defraud another person, or you're using for a criminal purposes. Now when you buy a SIM card, it comes with a booklet. All those terms and conditions are stated in the document. For the clearinghouse, you don't have anything like that. It means that somebody can also sit at the clearinghouse and be listening to your call. You don't have any legal agreement with that person. So that's where the problem is.
So have you raised these issues with the NCAA, and what has been their response?
I think NCAA, they've not been very fair to the telcos, even the telecom community. They did some public forum which was not well publicized. I heard some of the telcos got their a letter to contribute to the whole thing a day to the deadline, which is also not good for the industry. So why do you rush something that you think will work for everybody? And on top of it, if you don't, you do, for example, you do 5 levels of auditing for the telecom companies. Now, who do you, don't you trust again that warrant a clearinghouse? I don't see the need why we need a clearinghouse to solve whatever problem. And if you are going to reinforce quality service, or you're going to build up the industry, it means that you need to engage each of them. They've paid international gateway license in millions of dollars to do the same job the clearinghouse is going to do. So who will bear the cost that the telcos have invested in the same system.
I think these are concerns that the NCAA should be interested, but we've been trying to reach them. We spoke with Van Persie, he's supposed to be the Director General of the NCAA, and he's not coming forth with this kind of interview we want to have with him. He promised us he was going to get us somebody, and we kept calling and he wasn't picking up. So we're still trying to get the NCAA to respond to these concerns raised. But seriously, what are the implications if this thing, NCAA goes ahead to introduce this thing?
The implication is that if the clearinghouse goes off, every telephone number goes off. That's the implication. Right now, if one network goes off, the others play the support, or if you have a different SIM card, you can call. The telcos have an arrangement where, for example, if Telecom A goes off, there's what they call redundancies. You can call the same subscriber on that network through another telecom service provider system. The clearinghouse is just one spot. It goes off, everybody goes off. And that's the challenge.
But the NCAA is supposed to aid communication and ensure that everything is smooth. And so why do you think NCAA would boycott all these concerns? Because I know almost all the telcos are not for this. You think they have an agenda for introducing this?
Maybe they may have a commercial agenda, and this is not an informed way of doing things. It's like a commando style of regulation, and it won't work for the industry. We are development partners. The telcos contribute hugely to what they call government revenue. So why do you want to push things down their throat? And in Nigeria, the same clearing has been implemented in Nigeria. It's not mandatory. And for over 10 years of its implementation, only 5% of calls go through the clearing house.
Let me hold you on and engage a senior member of the pressure group, Occupy Ghana, Nana Kwesiwa, who also has tough questions for the NCAA. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining me.
Good evening. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Obviously, you have raised some concerns. What are these concerns, sir, that you are raising with the Interconnect Clearinghouse?
Yes. For us at Occupy Ghana, we have been following the debate on the Interconnect Clearinghouse for some time. You would realize that when the debate broke out, we did not immediately wade into it. We followed for some time just because we needed to do our background research and also to analyze and assess the arguments from both sides. Now, after sitting down to carefully go through these, we came out with some issues, some questions for both the sector minister, the AG, that's the Attorney General, and the National Communications Authority. And one of the issues that we raised was concerning the legal regime for the establishment of the centralized Interconnect clearinghouse. Also, we raised issues about concerns of subscribers when it has to do particularly with privacy. That is another issue that we raised. We also raised issues concerning whether there are alternative solutions instead of the Interconnect clearinghouse. So these are some of the issues that we raised, and particularly per our understanding of the Interconnect clearinghouse, we have a situation where we have one medium through which all communication is routed, and therefore issues about where there's a breakdown in that particular medium, what happens, was the backup plan. And these are the issues we raised that we consider that government, the NCAA, and the relevant stakeholders ought to address fully before any implementation is taken concerning the Interconnect clearinghouse.
Obviously, in doing such a thing, the NCAA might have consulted all the key players. Have you had any consultation from the NCAA? Have they approached you? Have they explained anything to you?
Well, we haven't heard anything from the NCAA. The NCAA has not approached us, and that is why we have raised these issues in a press release. That is, Occupy Ghana wants to know 2016, the first of the series. And so we are simply awaiting feedback from the relevant authorities, the relevant agencies, that the release was targeted at.
But seriously, have you also raised the issue, because you have been saying this in the public domain, have you approached the NCAA with your concerns, and what were their response to your concerns?
We have not approached them privately, and you would realize that with the press release that we issued, it was addressed to the Honorable Minister, the Ministry of Communications and Information, the Director General of the NCAA, as well as the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. And we, apart from putting it out in the public domain, we have personally sent or delivered copies to these to their offices as well. And so we expect some feedback from them on the issues that we have raised.
But speaking to the NCAA doesn't seem to be bothered about these concerns. What if it goes ahead to implement this? What will be your next line of action?
At the moment, we have not taken a firm decision on our next line of action. We hope that the issues or the concerns we have raised would be addressed positively. If we realize that there is no positive reaction to it coming from the authorities or the relevant agencies, would sit down and take a decision going forward.
Seriously, these raise a lot of issues, and especially when issues of privacy and security are mentioned. I think it's something that the NCAA should take seriously. Unfortunately, we've been trying to get them, and we're still not getting them to respond to this. But the bigger question still remains that how would you feel about an entity spying on your private conversation? We hit the streets. Let's hear what the people are saying.
Exactly.
Okay, briefly, let's hear you before we go on the streets.
Hello?
Yes, you're still on air.
Yes, I'm saying that concerning the question you just asked about privacy, personally, I wouldn't feel okay with the knowledge that someone is spying or eavesdropping on my communication with another person. Then again, for me, it raises serious constitutional issues, because the right to privacy is also guaranteed. And therefore, if there is a policy which is going to be implemented, which is going to endanger that right, then there is a need to raise these issues to see how to, as it were, if the policy has to be changed, then so be it. Because if the policy, the implementation of the policy would infringe upon a citizen's right to privacy, then there's a need to reconsider it.
But let me hold you on a bit and come to Ametogo. And the issue has been that even the telcos have been spying on us already. Like I asked you earlier on, what shows that the conversation I had with my friend earlier on was not tapped into, somebody was not listening to it. So what's different with this thing that the NCAA is bringing?
You see, the telcos, I'm not sure there's evidence that they eavesdrop on people's conversation. Okay, what they do is sometimes they get requests from government to follow somebody's conversation. Theirs is like a pipeline. They don't store some of the voice conversations and all that. SMS is stored and forwarded, maybe in their system for some time, and then it goes off automatically. But if government wants to monitor you, it means that they're going to put a recording thing on the system where they can track your conversation. The telcos, I don't know what interest will serve them if they eavesdrop on your conversation.
But what interest do you think it will serve the NCAA to eavesdrop in our conversation with this?
NCAA is the regulator, NCAA is government. If governments want to track you, they will monitor your call.
So you want this thing to be introduced by a private entity, that one we will accept?
That's what they are doing. So government is partnering with a private entity. The private entity can also eavesdrop on my conversation and sell that information to somebody else without the NCAA knowing.
But the telcos is also a private entity and could have interest in your conversation.
That's why they are guided by regulations. That's why they are guided by laws. And the NCAA is supposed to enforce those laws. If they are breaching it, NCAA should tell us.
So, Ms. Aria, you think that this conversation I'm having with you, somebody is not tapping into it?
Well, I want to believe that this conversation I'm having with you does not, someone somewhere is not listening in on it. And for that, at the moment, I would feel comfortable with that than to have a situation where you have one clearinghouse where you know that somehow, someone may be listening in on a conversation right now, such as that which we are having.
You've made your point. Many thanks to you for joining us. And now let's hit the streets and ask people how they feel about an entity spying on their private conversation.
Especially me. I have no problem for someone to monitor my call. Because when I'm making the call, I have nothing to hide from anyone. But I don't see no reason why someone has to monitor my call. But when you want to do it, that's your own business. I have no problem, but that's not fair.
Well, I feel very bad. I'll be angry with the person as well, because it's strictly business. Business are confidential at times, not because you have any bad idea or you have anything bad to do, but a strategy that you use to do your business should not be disposed. You know, Ghanaians, people easily tap into people's ideas without paying anything for it. So it's just not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair.
For me, it's a very bad system. For me personally, for the kind of work we do, we don't want any third person to be listening to our calls. That's because our kind of business here is so different. Because we do buy and sell. So if I'm communicating with someone else and then another third party yes to affect me, maybe that person might think I'm frauding, you know, so for me it's very bad.
I'll feel very bad and also shy. Maybe if the conversation is very bad, or maybe it's caused something which is not good, I'll feel bad.
In natural fact, I will not be happy. I'll feel so bad. I'll feel bad because it's not the best, because it might be secret or convenient, but the third person hearing it might go out to broadcast it or to tell my enemy or who does not wish me well. So I feel so bad and embarrassed.
Well, I'll feel very bad because it's a personal thing and no one should have access to it. My information to somebody is personal. Let's say I'm doing a business with someone. If anybody should come across that information, that person can pick my business, and that will cost me dearly. And then let's say with my marriage as well, I might be sending information to a third party, or let's say my wife, let me put it that way. Say, go home, I've put in money here. Somebody gets to know of it, that person can go to pick the money, and that also costs me. So in all, I don't think it is very good. It is not good at all for somebody to, get into somebody's communication. It's not that good.
So how would it feel if you were given a code or a PIN for a huge sum of money to be taken and somebody gets to know of the PIN before the owner of the PIN? That would be disastrous. But seriously, with the advent of technology, and we know that people are even hacking into Bank of Ghana's systems and all of that, would you be surprised that somebody is listening to your conversation, the one you just had with your girlfriend?
No, for Bank of Ghana, for example, they have servers. If your server is not secured, or the one managing the server is not security conscious, somebody can hack into the system. The telcos, their job is to make sure the system is working for a call to go through. So there are two different systems altogether.
That's what I'm saying, that's also a technology. But so with all these technologies around us, would you be surprised that somebody is tapping into your conversation even without the introduction of this kind of thing?
It's possible, but it depends on how I manage my device. If, for example, I leave my phone here, somebody can install a spy app on my phone and it can be recording my conversation. That is my problem, not the telecom communications problem.
But obviously, you're not in for this kind of system. And SIM fraud is still a problem that government needs to tackle.
Yeah.
How do you wish government goes about it?
Number one, reduce the cost difference, the arbitrage between local call and international call rate. Where countries where there's zero arbitrage or there's minimal arbitrage, there's no SIM boxing. South Africa, Nigeria is one huge market. They don't do SIM boxing. Number two, these SIM boxes, it's an international business. They do with the big card carriers. So if somebody is in the US and they are partnering with the local guys here to terminate call through the internet, why are you not stopping that? NCAA is supposed to certify every electronic device that comes into the country. Why are they allowing, or why do people bypass the system to be able to bring in a SIM box and operate here in Ghana? Those are the issues that we must look at. And then the registration system is old school, is poor, in fact, it's very porous. It's not secured because it's not an intelligent system. If I go and, for example, register 10 SIM cards, the system should be able to flag that Maximus has registered 10 SIM cards and he may be using it for this particular business. Now, if somebody is able to acquire 21,000 SIM cards and use it for SIM box, whose problem is it? It's the NCAA. You are the regulator. So if somebody is operating that, it's your challenge.
So whose problem is it? The NCAA, I think, should take all these consideration on board. It's rather unfortunate we couldn't get them to speak on this matter. We're hoping to get them on our subsequent programs to speak on this matter. But I think it's a concern that they should consider. Thank you very much, Maximus Ametogo. He is a technology expert and activist. And that's all time will allow us for TBS. And we'll be back shortly with your most interactive segment, J&I.